Okay, I'm back. That took a little longer than I expected. The glue appears to be dry. So now we'll continue with the build. Okay. This is a step right now where you can decide how exactly you want to finish your fins. You can start deciding that now. If you've ever worked with balsa wood before, you know it is quite porous. So when you paint it, the paint kind of soaks in. It does show all of the wood grain quite a bit. One thing some builders do to help with that is sealing and sanding the balsa wood. Yes, this looks good. Yeah. So some sort of carpenter's wood filler, there's all kinds. If I do it, I typically use this Elmer's wood filler. It starts, I really like it because it starts purple and then when it's dry, it's white. So that's an easy indication, easy way to find out, is this dry? If you don't seal it, when you paint it, you will see all the wood grain still, unless you can do multiple coats of primer and sanding in between, and that can fill it out too. But by that point, your fin is glued to your rocket. It's a lot harder to sand that way. You can still do that. It's possible. I have done it in the past. With these fins, it's fairly simple. It's not that, it wouldn't be that hard to do that if I wanted to do that. But I think for me, for today, I would rather seal this now rather than when it's attached. I find it a lot easier to do that, especially with with this product. If you do decide to seal your fins, make sure you do not put sealer on the base. This is what gets glued to your body tube. You want the glue to soak into this. The sealer will prevent that somewhat. So don't glue here. And since we're going to be gluing these assemblies to the top, you don't want to seal this. So this doesn't look that bad. I could probably leave it alone. But for this, I do want to do that. So to help me with that, I have the styrofoam block, which, comes free in any packaging you're getting, and let's face it, we are all getting lots of packages delivered to our homes these days. And I have these are little embroidery needles. And you can put those in. Just be careful that you're going with the grain of the wood when you're doing that. And as a reminder that you don't want to paint the bottom, it goes in the bottom. It goes into the root edge of your fin. And that gives you something to hold, and it lets you prop them up in the styrofoam while the sealer is drying, and then it gets air circulating all around. Because this is a wood filler product, it is a water-based product, you're introducing moisture to the balsa wood. If you have it uneven, it will warp as it dries. Get the rest of these put in and just set them aside for now. it helps to spin it a little bit. That helps you see if it's going in more or less at a straight line. And pay attention on the edges, on the sides. If your needle is off, it could poke through. If you fix it right away and you can fill it in, use the wood filler to fill it, it's usually not a problem. Just take a glob of it out. And that's probably way more than I will need. That's okay, we'll just put it back in when we're done. And a little water to thin it out. This stuff is more or less intended to be put on sort of like a spackling compound, a product like that. For this purpose, I want to have it thin enough that I can paint it on with a paintbrush. So if you can see, I'm working the water in. You almost can't thin it too much. I mean, you can, it'll get a little drippy, gloopy, but it'll just take a little bit longer to dry. If you feel it's too thin, just add a little bit more filler. If it's too thick, just add a little bit more water. This is about what I want. See, that didn't take a whole lot of water at all in that. And that got it pretty good. So I'll get my paintbrush. I like a big, wide, no, that's not what I want. I want this one. If you want to, you can wear gloves, and I think I will for this, just because I don't have a sink down here. Again, this is my garage. I don't want to have to worry about washing up when I'm done. So again, with this particular one, I want to be careful not to paint down here or up here. And I'm going to go ahead and hold it with the fin itself for now, as I'm doing this, because it's best support. When you're doing this, again, since you're introducing water, you want to make sure you are painting the filler on both sides of the part at the same time. And since these edges are not getting glued again, you can go ahead and paint onto those. Again, as you're working, just brush it on nice and smooth. It's going to look a little thick right away, and then you'll see as it starts to dry, it kind of evens out. And you can, if any one spot looks really thick, go ahead and just wipe it down with your paintbrush to smooth it out. Now, since I got a big panel of this side painted, I'm going to flip it around and do the same on this side. Again, you don't want too much moisture on one side versus the other. because that will warp it. Keep an eye on these as they dry. If you're noticing warping, when it's most of the way dry, layer some waxed paper on both sides and place it under something heavy. If you have a heavy book, that works. Or if you have some sort of clamping system, that will work as well. If you do happen to get some of the sealer where the glue is going to go, don't worry about it, you can set it off. As I'm getting to the end here, I'm running out of wood to hold on to, which is where that can come in handy. It just wants to wobble a little more. It likes to, I made a pivot point, so it wants to spin around that. It's okay. Get the back edge here. Actually, since the top and bottom I won't be painting, that makes for an easy way to hold this. It's a lot more stable and it doesn't want to spin. What this does is it fills all these gaps in the balsa wood. You sand this, once it's completely dry, you sand it smooth, and it can end up giving the fin a finish nearly as smooth as if it were made of plastic. And smooth is a lot more aerodynamic. We are adding a minor amount of weight, but we're getting a major increase in aerodynamics with doing this. So yes, it's a trade-off, but I believe it's a trade worth doing. There. I think that one's good. So I'll finish the other two, and I will be back later to continue the build. Okay, so while the sealer on the fins is drying, I'm going to move on to installing the engine mount into the body tube. And you'll want to pay attention again to how you marked it. If you did not mark the lines all the way to both ends, make sure you put the engine mount tube into the end down here where the fin markings are. So that's backwards. See? This one has the notch there on this one. So this one goes out. So just make sure it fits nice. Yep. Okay. Now you will want to put a bead of glue or a line of glue inside the tube about 2.5 inches up. Easiest way to do that is a dowel. Now I've already used this several times, so it's already got some pencil markings on it, so just a quick sanding to get rid of those. And a little bit of that excess glue on the end. So 2.5 inches. Put the pencil mark there. And that way when the glue is on here, put it in, there. Easy enough. As soon as the glue starts flowing, I'm going to put a fairly big glob. And one advantage of it being this cold is disadvantage is it's slow flowing. Advantage, it's slow flowing. So I've got time before it starts dripping everywhere. Okay, so that's in there nice and good. So I'm going to get the first one in. And then while that's in there, I'm going to try to get another bead of glue just on the inside. For the other ring. This is very awkward. But you want to make sure both rings get a fair amount of glue on them. Remember, this is where all the thrust happens, so it needs to stay attached very firmly to the body tube. A little more. If you get some on the outside of the engine mount, not a big deal here. There we go. There's a nice bead. So get that in, and you'll feel when it hits the glue, and you'll want to line that up. For this particular build, it varies from build to build, but for this one, you want the end of the engine mount to be even with the end of the body tube. And if it looks like you've got some extra glue on the body tube, reach in there with a dowel and paper towel, clean that out. On the outside of the body tube, I'm not as worried about it. That will be okay. I'm going to clean it up a little bit here, but that looks pretty good. So and then let that dry. This one I'll let dry with the bottom down. Okay. So we got the fins sealed and they're drying. I've got the engine mount tube mounted, it's drying. That's going to take some time for everything to dry, so the next part I will be sanding the fins, getting the dowel pieces attached to the ends of the fins, and getting the fins themselves attached to the body, and we'll continue the build from there. For now, I'll do some cleanup and get my car put back in my garage because I won't be working on this today or tomorrow. So thanks for joining me on my workshop, and we'll see you again next time.